G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 23rd of February 2026. As the war continues, a plethora of weaponry will change, but some things haven't, right? The T-72, the T-80, the T-90 continue to be the mix. The Russians, of course, have increased their artillery. Of course, the self-propelled mortar falls into the realm of artillery, and so does the self-propelled guns. Now it's talk, but we haven't seen it yet, of the revival of the 150, it's the self-propelled gun, 153, I think. Big beast, right? Big beast, right? So basically a Mazda B with a big compensator on the end, right? You can't hide this beast. It's coming. It's got a really big. It basically rolls up, boom. And then they have to roll it back into place, right? The recoil, right? You don't want to be the crew of this thing, right? I think the crew get out and use their remote trigger from a distance, you know? I don't think the crew want to be sitting in that beast when she fires. But, it's not saying Russia has dominated Ukraine, right? That they are winding up operations, so to speak, allegedly, seeing is believing, but we're close to the end, apparently. But seeing is believing. I don't exactly know when they're going to call it a day. But this has Ukraine pissed, of course, claiming that Russia's out to conquer all of Europe. You better be afraid and give us lots of money to protect you. The good old fear-mongering protection racket, whether it's global warming, pesticides, glycosates in your meat. They always put your own good. We're going to protect you. The good old protection racket business is thriving. Fear porn is up. But I'm here to tell you that Russian strikes on Kiev really have not really changed the course of war. But what's really changed, hardened Russia, of course, is the Ukrainian strikes. They hit Russia every day and then cry when Russia hits them back. It's not fair. You hit our energy infrastructure again. We told you not to do that. And Russia says, yeah, but you promised not to hit us. And they said, no, it's a legitimate military target, So, yeah, hypocrite, thy name is Zelensky. As we go through the map, there is a lot of activity. The Russians have made some advances down here, right? Boom, they're pushing through. They're not much, right? They're trying to push through the Ukrainian lines. I swear this map changes every day, but it's not always immediately noticeable, right? But they're moving to fill this gap here. They're still cleaning up here. They've taken all of this now, right? There's nothing really, right? I think the Ukrainians just going to get overrun here sooner or later, right? Ukrainians have positions here, back here. It's just the Ukrainian military base that was overrun. The Russians fully taken control and move. They're on the outskirts of Borosk. Like I said, they'll fight for weeks, sometimes months, and then they don't even advance. Sometimes when the Ukrainians retreat, they wait for the counterattack. They basically use Kupiansk as a bear trap, right? bear runs away, but eventually comes back and steps in it again, right, over and over again. Here we go. We got movement on the frontier. Most of Roddy has now fallen. Radishk has all but fallen, right? For a long time, the Ukrainians were holding him back, and then it's growth spurt. So, yeah. And again, this is a lot to do with the rotation of troops. When the troops get to the exhaustion, the Russians fight a holding action. And as soon as they got fresh troops, reinforcements, resupply, rotation out, and the focus on the battlefield. Because every couple of days, the focus on the battlefield changes, right? But it's in a big 6-week cycle. And once that cycle is over, they start again. And suddenly Ukraine finds some of their old hotspots hotter than they can handle. And they can no longer play the game of retreat, line up their artillery and think, the Russians are going to come into our artillery, and then all of a sudden, bam, an Su-25 ruins their day, right? Yeah, Ukrainians are doing what the Russians do, right? Retreat and use your artillery, right? They're trying to use the old Russian tactic of retreat and destroy, right? Retreat, lure them into a artillery firing position, right? And then open up on them. Now, of course, not everything goes Russia's way, but as you can see, most of the time, yes, things are going Russia's way, and they are pulverizing and pumping munitions into this area of Zaporozhye, right? It's called softening up, although here and there they've actually gained some territory, but right now, nothing really consequential. So we'll see what happens. Kursk Bridge still stands. Air defences on both sides have been less than effective 100% of the time. But most of the time, that is how it goes, right? You're not going to stop right? If you just keep, they can stop 100 missiles, we'll send 101, right? Now, the legendary Su-25 is dominating the battlefield over Ukraine, while an aging workhorse of the Soviet era, it was designed originally to counter a Western tank advance into the Soviet Union. It is a strike support vehicle, mostly armed with rockets. You can see it could fly almost at ground level. And you can see there the rocket pod and the effects of devastation. Right, let's see what you got. Basically, boom. These are 122s, precision laser guided. These are no longer dumb rockets, right? And some of them even target homing. So, yeah, Russia's taken the next step, right? Precision ground artillery with precision air artillery, right? Precision air rocket artillery. As you can see, right? They travel in packs. They open up on a position. And there. Right. Away she goes. Right. Precision. Oh, let's see. This obviously. Boom. That's that ammunition depot. The orange flashes, high explosives going off in multiple clusters. As you can see, yeah. They are robust machines built for a different battlefield, now finding a new life as forward air artillery. Well, there's your basic... and they are getting slowly replaced. The Su-25 is being replaced by the Su-35. But for now, many of these workhorses, you can see it's got the radar dorsal for It's got its electronics package. Right. They're twin seat, twin engine. They're actually not made for air combat, but they can engage usually. But yeah, there you go. There's the artillery. Right. It's got the yeah, you can see it's racked up, right? But it doesn't carry a high load, but it's carrying the what is it, ACOMS or something? The new all-round air-to-air combat missile. This is it's an all-weather. This is a smaller rocket pack designed for basically lighting up a field. They also have the internal cannon. And there's air-to-air. Right, they can fire these as well. There's the rockets firing off. As you can see, just thump. And for a privileged few, once upon a time, you could buy Soviet-era aircraft for the privileged few. It's changing the changing the ammo. Yeah, this is new cannon, right? This is the AP variant, of course. Like anything else, basically, yeah, ground crewing, right? And clear small vehicles, even some tanks, penetrate turrets, carry dumb bombs, although most of the Russian dumb bombs these days are glided precision munitions. That's what we got here. There's the glide bombs. Look down, yeah. That's right. Advanced air combat training actually as a ground strike craft. They, as you can see, they're primarily focused on hitting ground targets. You can see it's a contained pilot canopy. So you'd shoot up the aircraft and look at it. She's shot up, right, and she's shot up pretty good. Right, 12.7 millimeters, ground fire. But it's a titanium pointed canopy underneath. They sit at a it was meant to counter, or at least it's not as good as the A-10 Thunderbolt 2, but it's getting the job done in Ukraine. As you can see, this is a workhorse of the air. Right, of course. And we're starting to get repeats. She carries a lot of, you got your flares, you got your jammers, you got all the standard fare of a combat aircraft, much bigger one. Of course, she's digital and in metric, as most aircraft are. But yeah, it's one of the most diverse aircraft in the wide range, which puts it on par with an F-16, right? It's as you see, it's got various guided and sophisticated missiles like the A-10. So, but it's got the fuel tank extenders and the ground and airstrike capabilities like an F-16. It was meant to fill a gap. Now, yeah, it's a beast that has day and night strikes on Ukraine. But unlike in the past, I think where Soviet air power was always underutilized, particularly with the over-reliance on helicopters, particularly, which would say the Cold War era, the Russians have shifted, though still they maintain attack helicopters, but shifted to a more robust, faster, more maneuverable platform which is weird, right? But helicopters are great for manoeuvring up pop-ups and short strikes. But the Su-25 seems to be able to further, longer, better. And it's a shift in Soviet doctrine. Oh, technically, they had shifted away 20 years ago from Soviet doctrine. But yeah, it's a clear shift that this is now a Russian army, not a post-Soviet era army. It's a mental gymnastics, I know, but in the long run, the more the more Russia is seen able to defend itself, the less likely Europe is to pick on Russia. Right? Europe has done this historically, which is why there's no love or trust between any of them. Right? Don't forget France, Germany, and the UK would still gladly, stab each other in the heart. And no, France just has to, be left alone, and they'll do that. But Trump, there he is in the famous "you, not you" pose, right? Where he's being very precise in who he is talking to. Hillary Clinton gets humiliated as Czechoslovakia calls out the former Secretary of State for having wild TDS and making wild claims. The Munich conference is officially bust. They have achieved nothing. There is no unity. There is no NATO troops. There is no support for NATO troops. And the $90 billion package to Ukraine is again shelved. So the winner is the human race. Once again, the warmongers were unable to do anything other than eat a lot of expensive food and visit a lot of expensive prostitutes and achieve nothing for the people of Europe. And again, Russia has hit energy infrastructure in the Ukrainian capital on the upcoming what are you saying? Celebration of Russian liberation. Zelensky is a Russian after all. He's blamed Russia for everything. But yeah, they call it a terrorist act. But the thing is, this drone may not have come from Russia, but Ukraine. And there is panic that more and more Ukrainian drones are being turned against Ukrainians. These false flag attacks or infighting between factions. It's rare, right? Last time it was brought in public. SBU agents were killing each other by sending each other grenades in the post. What a fun society. Still, there has been multiple attacks across Ukraine, of course, by Russia. Ukraine says Russia deployed 345 missiles and drones, 50 missiles and drones. It said it shot down 33, yeah. But Ukrainian drone strikes on Russia left apparently been mostly destroyed. Yeah, 130 doesn't add up. But none of it always does. Pope Leo again has asked Ukraine for peace. Funny how everybody seems to say they support Ukraine and then call them out for not making peace. It's like they know who the culprit is, right? Don't want to say it. They don't want to admit the truth. That the problem is Ukraine. So Russia fights Ukraine while the people who know Ukraine is to blame still keeps giving Ukraine money. And then you wonder why there's no peace. Now Ukrainian recruits, look at them all with that many missiles. Yeah. No. Most most people aren't carrying it. Oh. You'd be surprised, though, I guess. There'll be a few who probably could, but no. It seems to be like propaganda, everyone. Like, yeah, everyone's got a what do you call it? Javelin. I am ready for president of Ukraine. A free javelin in every pot, and two AK-47s in every garage. Might as well use a campaign balloon, right? You don't need a hot air generator to keep it. But don't forget the lead shoes to make sure it doesn't. You don't fly away. Now, again, as I said, the Munich conference is yet another Munich conference that has achieved nothing. How many Munich conferences have we had over the years? They cannot agree on how to shut down Russian oil. But what are they going to do? Go out there and sink Russian ships? Yeah, they said, the Russians said, yeah, we'll escort them. You know, we'll put a missile destroyer on escort duty for every tanker. Good luck. This is ridiculous. You know, if they want to fire on a Chinese tanker, they've also been told the same thing. Yeah, that China doesn't care about your embargoes. You fire on their vehicles, they will basically make Taiwan glow again. Sorry. So, nice warm day here, to say the least. Now Zelensky has passed on yet another message to Zelensky. I think it's probably the third this week, where he said, come to the table fast, stop dragging your heels, settle this war. And Zelensky says, they want us to surrender everything. No, we're not going to leave the Donbass. You hate the Donbass. You fired upon the Donbass for 6 weeks as president before the Russian invasion. Right, the Russians told you, stop firing on Donbass, come to the peace table. And Zelensky said, no. So stop blaming the Russians for everything, right? They didn't kill your budgie. They didn't chip your nail, right? They didn't crack your tooth. They didn't make you fat, right? They didn't make you lazy, right? They didn't make you get up late for work, right? Russia has said that they have targeted but won't retaliate against Zelensky, right? But if he's caught up in a bombing raid, that they're not going to go out of their way to make sure he lives, but they're not going to go out of their way to make sure he dies, which tells you that there's an angel on his shoulder, and that angel is Putin, who's saying to the world, we are not going to kill this beautiful asset whose incompetence is winning us the war. Of course, then the Russians will feel bad, saying, no, it's our bravery and hard fought victory. So Russia's between a rock and a hard place, and the only way forward for Ukraine is backwards, right? But it was supposed to commit to neutrality, demilitarization, denazification, and all the other things that, nope, they did not do and will not care to do now, not ever. The only now forward is a ground victory that forces Ukraine into what they would call an uncomfortable peace treaty. So Russia's made pledge that it will not let its advanced military equipment fall into the wrong hands. But he's missing out the word again, right? Whether that's the communists, the fascists, or the Islamists. Putin, addressed as the supreme commander of the Russian forces, has addressed Russia on defender of the Fatherland Day and said that this is the patriarchy. The patriarchy always wins. Make me a sandwich, wench. Ukraine will be our bitch, but we're not keeping her. It's only a hump and dump, but we will slice off a little souvenir, right? The Donbass, which is predominantly the heart and strength of Ukraine's domestic industry. Meanwhile, Russia is advancing its own domestic industries, not just the nuclear triad, which is rocket forces, space force, or whatever you call it. So you got the rocket forces or artillery, right? That's the short and intermediate. And you got your missiles, right? And then you got your subs, right? Russia's security is pretty much in this nuclear triad, because all other power comes from that, right? If it was just 10,000 tanks, it'd be American helicopters and anti-tank vehicles. If it was just aircraft, it'd be Stinger missiles, right? That's where Russia, particularly Afghanistan, was highly vulnerable, right? Sole reliance on one method. But Ukraine, of course, being called out, and so is NATO. Even Finland recognizes that they've gone too far. They've acquired too much territory. It's unmanageable. It's creating regional tensions as people want to use NATO as a springboard up. And, of course, the only way to rise in an aggressive organization is to be more aggressive than the rest of the organization. And Finland wants to pour cold water on all that. But all the paranoid, delusional people are saying, no, bro, it's Russian disinformation. It's capitulation. So all the immature people are trying to lock you into war, a war they themselves will not fight. So thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. Support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy me merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. I really appreciate each and every one of you. See you all in the next video, and bye for now.